Eagle 95.1, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend. Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend. And I'll do what I must. No, I won't give in. I won't give in. Oh, so glorious. Until the end. Until the end.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to The Game on this Monday night, the last day of April 30th, 2018. My name is Scott Nason, host of The Game, as we are broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 FM, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie. Now, normally we're at the Wicked Sister, but because of schedules and everything kind of got a little complicated today, we're recording the show from the studios. We'll be back next Tuesday and every Tuesday in the month of May at the Wicked Sister. Always good to be down there, and Kathy and the staff wanted to mention a couple things as they are having a tap takeover with Dogfish Head Brewing Company on Friday, May 11th. Beer will start to flow at 11 a.m., and Kelly from the brewery will be on site around 5 p.m. And tomorrow, being May 1st, kicks off National Burger Month. And the Wicked Sister, they're celebrating all month long with a featured specialty burger every day in May. So if you happen to go into the Wicked Sister tomorrow, May 1st, they're going to give you a little hint. If you like their burger, you're going to love this one. It has one of their most popular items on the burger. And our good friend Casey Fuller at Quaker State gave Wicked Sister the idea. Casey I went to school with back in the day at Sioux Area High School. So a different burger every day at the Wicked Sister. And I know that everybody here that goes to the Wicked Sister, including our first guest and co-host of the game, also host of the Game Sports Show from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario, and Boston Pizza in Sioux, Ontario, Mr. Electric Avenue himself, Dave McCaig. Kegger, how you doing, my friend?
Scotty, I'm doing great, and wow, you got my stomach just a-roaring like the Lion King right now after seeing all that. Just some delicious burgers down at the Wicked Sister. I'm going to have to come on down there more than just on the Tuesdays or Mondays when we're there to enjoy some burgers, especially in the month of May.
You are exactly right, sir, and hopefully we'll get you on coming up here over the next few weeks. We'll be joined by Butch Davis in our next segment from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports. It's kind of an abbreviated edition of the game due to all of our schedules and due to it being a big night at the SR Center in Sioux, Ontario. Now, we were hoping to be broadcasting from the SR, but due to schedules and some other conflicts, we were unable to get there tonight. But the Soo Greyhounds and Kitchener Rangers will be there as they will face off in Game 7 of their Ontario Hockey League Western Conference Final, as the Kitchener Rangers extended the series yesterday afternoon in Kitchener as they edged out the Soo Greyhounds by the score of 4-3. And so the home team has won each of the 6 games. In yesterday's game, Cole Sherwood scored his 14th goal of the season, 13 minutes into overtime to give the Kitchener Rangers a 4-3 overtime victory over the Soo Greyhounds. Taylor Radish had a pair of goals for the Hounds, his 11th and 12th of the season, or I should say of the playoffs. And Sioux, Ontario native Mario Kalina once again played very well for Kitchener, making 45 saves in the win. Game 7, Dave, tonight, SR Center. That place is going to be rocking. Your thoughts on the series and heading into a very important Game 7 for both teams?
Oh, for sure. You know, it goes without saying how important Game 7 is. It's your win or die, right? Or you lose, you're going home, you're golfing. Or if you win, you're going on to the OHL Championship. So the Hounds, you know, this is a series that I feel that, and I think you'll agree with this, Scotty, it was 2 games longer than we thought would take the Hounds to defeat Kitchener. But I'm not saying that they're going to defeat Kitchener in Game 7. They still have to play an extremely good game as Kitchener has been playing on their level. So I think the Soo Greyhounds have had their big share of tests these last 2 series, and going 7 against Owen Sound, now going 7 tonight against Kitchener. It's going to be an extremely entertaining Game 7. And as you said, I know you and I were both hoping to attend, and I unfortunately unable to attend the game tonight. I know the house is going to be packed at the SR Center. There's only second row standing left. Actually, I think that just sold about an hour ago out.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's even that left.
Yeah, that's literally. The house is going to be packed. It's going to be loud at the SR Center. The Hounds are going to have the momentum of the fans behind them, but the Hounds have to go out there and just play their game. And each of the home teams have won each game, as you said, and the way to win a series is win a road game. And I believe, if I'm saying the saying right, you have to win a road game to win a series, and the first team to win a road game will win the series. And this is actually bringing that point to fruition. If the Kitchener Rangers win tonight, the Soo Greyhounds are done for the season. The Hounds win, they move on to the OHL Championship against Hamilton. And, you know, the Hounds have faced a real hot goalie here in Mario Kalina, who has stood on his head, in my opinion, has been the top gun for Kitchener. And Kitchener, whom has a player suspended for an inappropriate gesture, you know, that's a loss on the Kitchener up front, but the Hounds have to be focused. They have to come out and play the game that they can play and that they know they can play. And they have to play with that desperate mentality. They have to know that if they do not win this game, and they have to realize they don't win this game, that they are done for the season, and their dreams of winning an OHL championship and bringing a championship to the city of Sault Ste. Marie could come down crashing tonight if they don't come out victorious.
And Dave, you mentioned the player suspended for Kitchener. It's a Detroit Red Wings draft pick, actually a second-round draft pick from 2016, as defenseman Giovanni Smith suspended 2 games for an inappropriate gesture. For those that are scoring at home, and I put the video on my Twitter, snason2013, after the game, after Kitchener won, he went in front of the Soo Greyhound bench and put the middle finger up to several members of the bench. You might say the entire bench. Now, if he was playing in Europe, he might have gotten away with it because it's a different finger as far as flipping the bird over in Europe. So if he was playing in the Swedish league, he might have gotten away with it, but just not a very good move for Mr. Smith. And, you know, you look at this player, our good friend Don Supa, who listens, he's big on Smith. I mean, this guy is second-round draft pick for a reason. And you look at this defensive core for Kitchener, losing a guy like that. Could the middle finger be what cost Kitchener this game, Dave, tonight?
Absolutely, and he's a star defenseman, as you said. Smith is a draft pick and a second-round pick for a reason, much like Radish and Kachuk are second-round picks for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They'd be big losses to St. Marie Greyhounds, but with defense, that's a complete different position. You know, it's like when the Hounds were without Connor Timmins, another second-round pick of the Colorado Avalanche. There was some good depth, obviously, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound defense, but, you know, there's a hole that's missing with that. You're missing a star D-man. You're missing your number 1 D-man. And Kitchener has a good all-around team, but missing Smith tonight is going to be big. And I'm sure the Detroit Red Wings organization is not pleased with seeing that. You know, they're not going to really go full comment on it or say how they want, but, you know, obviously that's not how you want a young kid to be acting. And it's a very, let's say, classless move, a very immature move, but I get the moment. I get in the heat of the moment, something comes up, you're not thinking right, I understand that, but it's definitely a move that could cost the Kitchener Rangers Game 7 and the entire season, and the Hounds got to capitalize on, you know, going hard on the defense. They're going to have someone else in the lineup, Kitchener tonight, who hasn't had much playoff time in the playoffs this year, so they have to bring the battle to the Kitchener D, and they got to work hard down low because without Smith, they're missing a big quarterback on that blue line.
Dave, let's keep it moving. I know you got to go here in about 17 minutes. Dudley Hewitt Cup will begin starting tomorrow night in Dryden, Ontario. And congratulations to the Cochrane Crunch and their head coach and GM, Ryan Leonard, who has just done a fantastic job up in Cochrane. This is a very small northern Ontario town. They win the NOJHL championship over Rayside Balfour in 6 games. They have the Dudley Hewitt Cup they're hosting next season, and they're going to be in this year's Dudley Hewitt Cup starting tomorrow night. They'll take on Thunder Bay, Wellington, and Dryden, the other teams involved. Just a good story for another Sioux Ontario coach. We've seen that a lot here, Dave. We talk about Paul Maurice with the Winnipeg Jets. Ryan Leonard and the Cochrane Crunch. A little bit of a surprise, I think, to get to the Dudley Hewitt Cup, but a great job done by Mr. Leonard, or Lenny as he's known.
Yeah, absolutely. Lenny has done a great job, and I saw Kyle Brick today actually out in the public here in Sault Ste. Marie, and he was even complimenting how, the Cochrane Crunch are a hard-working team and well-coached, and giving much props to Lenny there. And Lenny's been in the NOJHL for years, and as we said last week, and as everybody knows, in multiple different positions, and he's dedicated to his hockey programs, and he buys in, and he puts his full dedication to that program. And with Cochrane, he has a team that's well built there, and I actually think it's a team that is well built for this type of hockey, much like it's already proven. They won the NOJHL title, so that already proves that there's no joke with this hockey team. They work hard, and I think they're built for this type of hockey. And I feel like their challenge out there is going to be definitely Wellington. I feel like that's the team that really sticks out to me, but I feel Cochrane should be a team that should be kind of not forgotten. I think Cochrane's going in there as kind of the underdog, believe it or not, in my opinion. And Lenny loves that kind of mentality with his players, or likes that kind of view from the public, because Lenny has systems, Lenny has ideas, and he knows how to use his team. He's already shown that. Their goaltender has been hot. So at the end of the day, the Cochrane Crunch are going to have their work cut out for them. But as for the other teams involved in the Dudley Hewitt Cup, so it's going to be a very exciting tournament, and Cochrane Crunch getting there, well deserved. Yes, it was unexpected, but for sure, definitely deserved to be there.
Dave, one other local hockey note. This broke middle of last week, and somebody that you and I have both had a lot of dealings with. Soo High head hockey coach John Ferroni announced last Wednesday that he is stepping down after 7 seasons leading the Soo High Blue Devil hockey team. It was announced that Ferroni, with a record of 132, 57, and 9 during his 7 years, would retire. The Blue Devils finished state runners-up twice while winning 4 regional titles and achieving academic all-state honors 6 of his 7 years as coaching, which I think is as impressive as anything. The Blue Devils this past season, 27-1, losing in the regional finals in overtime to Big Rapids. Somebody that I and you, Dave, have had a lot of dealings with, a class guy, one of the best coaches around as far as I'm concerned, a guy that would never hesitate to be on our show, to give an interview, to talk, and one of these guys that owned the program. And we talk about ownerships of programs a lot. You see that in successful sports. You see that down in St. Ignace with their girls basketball team and their football team. You see that in Cedarville with their basketball team, and you see that at Soo High with their hockey team. And they have announced that they are taking applications for the newest hockey coach for the Soo High Blue Devils, who will have very big shoes to fill for Coach Ferroni, because not only is he the coach of the program, but Soo High, a self-funded program, so he's almost like the athletic director of the program. He's the guy that puts together the schedule. He's the guy that helps or organizes the fundraisers, works with a very dedicated board of directors and volunteers, parents, and such. And so Coach Ferroni definitely going to be missed by Eagle 95.1, and I got to give him a lot of credit for accepting us when we first came on the scene. Our first sport that we got involved with was Soo High Hockey, who already had a broadcast going, and Coach Ferroni was more than hospitable to myself, to Paul Van Wagner, to you, Dave, and to Tim Ellis, our current broadcaster, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with Soo High Blue Devil Hockey. But, Dave, I just wanted to get real quick your thoughts on Coach Ferroni retiring. A good guy, and I think that's the way you just put it right there. He's just a good guy.
No, you know what, that is you said a lot of amazing things, Scott, there, that I would definitely echo what you're saying. And congratulations to Coach Ferroni for his successes with the Soo High Blue Devil program and what he's achieved with those multiple awards and the success with the team. And, he's definitely going to be missed. And as you said, definitely some extremely massive shoes to be filled when the new hire gets in there. But Ferroni for sure has shown into the community so many times, being involved with this team and doing fundraisers for this team. The endless work that he put in for the Soo High Blue Devils hockey program was amazing. And it's someone that reminds me a lot of a friend of mine named Joe Longo, who was a young coach of mine that did the exact same thing with a lot of who actually was a survivor of cancer and was a worker in terms of the community and trying to fundraise a team and being involved in high school sports. And these type of individuals like Coach Ferroni, whom we're obviously discussing here, and obviously with other coaches like even Joe and all that, these are the type of coaches that are remembered by everyone whom is younger or in the high school age or any type of age that you're being coached by. Ferroni cared about his players. He cared about the media. He cared about everybody. He always put others ahead of himself. He was a guy that I even looked up to in terms of his personality and what he brought to the table on a day-to-day basis, and the reaction he got from his players and the respect that he got from his players and from also like the media and from the parents. It's truly amazing what John has definitely achieved, and he's definitely going to be missed. And I definitely wish him the best on his future endeavors, and whatever he's going to do with his future endeavors, he's going to be doing it with perfection, and he's going to succeed, as he's that type of individual who works hard and gets what he works in for, and he puts in for what he works, and he's very successful. And I got to say thanks to him too on a personal note, because our radio career, well, maybe definitely yours, Scotty, was more established than mine before I started. So, but definitely with me being involved with the Soo High hockey program is where I actually started my radio career. So, much shout out to John there, and also Paul Van Wagner too, obviously. But John was so welcoming when I was there and took care of me on trips and in terms of food, and which is great all in all. And like you said, the big word for him and the big term and the way he's going to be defined as, just a great guy.
Dave McCaig joining us on the game. You can hear Dave on his show from Boston Pizza on Boston Pizza on Thursday nights and SportsCenter Bar and Grill on Wednesday nights. You can hear him on the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. A couple other local notes here, Dave. I want to get your thoughts on the Leafs and the Raptors. Not a whole lot of high school baseball and softball. I did see that Soo High and Rudyard was playing in the Soo. They did get the softball games going today. And Rudyard did have a couple games last week. The girls winning 7-5 and 9-3 against Grayling, their first two victories of the season. And the Soo High Blue Devils won the Mayo tournament this past Saturday in baseball, winning over Rudyard 7-5. And we're going to have a lot more results from high school baseball and softball, as the field's pretty good. Still a couple fields around the area not good, including in Rudyard. The baseball and softball fields still unplayable, and the baseball field here in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, going to be at least another week, maybe even two, for some of those fields to get cleared off. And yours truly will start his umpiring schedule finally on Wednesday in Pickford and Thursday in Newberry after missing 3 weeks. And I might add hundreds of dollars in income that I expected. And one other note, Lake Superior State University announced this past week that they signed their women's basketball coach, Brandon Lockett, to a 4-year contract extension, joining men's basketball coach Steve Henninga and hockey coach Damon Witten. And I want to thank the Lake Superior State University track coach who reached out to me, and our good friend Katie Woolen, for setting this up. We haven't had any Laker guests for a while, but their track and field coach reached out, wanted to be on our show next week, so Rob Gallagher will be our guest next week talking Laker track and field. Dave, we got about 10 minutes left before you got to go. Obviously, the last time we talked was Game 7, the Leafs and Bruins, and, well, you spelled Toronto without a D for a reason because, no offense, but the defense was the weak spot, in my opinion, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they put up a good battle, being down 3-1 against Boston, but falling to the Bruins in 7 games. And I just wanted your thoughts on the Leafs and where they go from here. Obviously, this is a team, I think, that is building towards something very special. I know there were some reports as maybe there is a division in the locker room between head coach Mike Babcock and some of the players. So, Dave, we got about 10 minutes left. Let's try to split this 5-5 with the Leafs and the Raptors. Your thoughts on the Leafs and the NHL playoffs?
You know, they still very fresh. You know, it's a loss that I was disappointed with because, yet again, we had a 1-goal lead going into the third period, and the Boston Bruins basically came on the third period and said, absolutely not. They showed their superiority over the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Leafs weren't ready for that attack. And there's a lot of players that did not stand up to the plate in this series. But I'm not pointing fingers in terms of who disappeared in the series, but Austin Matthews being one of the guys that didn't really fit in with that series against Boston. But we all knew who public enemy number one was in Toronto, and it wasn't Frederik Andersen, as some people think. It was Jake Gardiner. And Jake Gardiner and Nikita Zaitsev were getting their fingers pointed again. A lot of threats on Twitter, which I don't like. But at the end of the day, because you want to stay classy, but the defense with that team, I've said it for how many months, Scotty? I remember saying it last summer. I remember saying it. I've been saying it for such a long time that this team needs D. When your number one D man is Morgan Rielly right now, which no offense to Rielly, he is a good talent, but he is not a number one D man still. In my opinion, he's still number 2, maybe 3. In my opinion, they're still missing that star-studded D, or at least 2 solid defensemen that are like Morgan Rielly but more defensive. Jake Gardiner, on the one play by Jake DeBrusk, he cut him off. He did try his best there, but other than that, Jake Gardiner was trying to do too much. He was absolutely atrocious. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen by Leaf defensemen, and I'm talking even worse than that 4-1 collapse in 2013. That D was worse. So I think that was obviously a big part. Anderson let a couple soft ones in, but also did Tuukka Rask, and there definitely wasn't a goaltending duel in Game 7. The team that was hungrier and played the full 60 minutes is what won the hockey game. And for Toronto going forward, even today, like it was announced that Lou Lamoriello will no longer be the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's actually going to be in an advisor role in the Toronto. So it makes me wonder if it's going to be Hunter or my Sioux boy native there, Kyle Dubas, is going to be taking over the Toronto Maple Leafs. But as a few there's a lot of rumors going around that will be announced sooner rather than later. Be kind of very, be a good fit to see Kyle Dubas get in there. So that would be awesome to see. We'll wait and see what happens with the GM. But Lou Lamoriello was there to be an advisor to Dubas, or to Mark Hunter. Mark Hunter is not a guy who wants to be in that GM role, and he has said that before. And maybe that'll change when the pockets open up for the Leafs. But when it comes to Dubas, this is what they brought him in for to be a successor to Lou Lamoriello. So I'm very, very hopeful that it's Sioux native Kyle Dubas that gets taken over for the Maple Leafs in that special direction that team, as you were mentioning, because like Dane Hantro said, one of our analysts on our show, and many people say the Leafs are going to be one of, if not the best teams within the next decade. So with the special talent that they have up front, and they definitely, like you said, they need to tweak that decor. And then going into the offseason, there's been people muttering how they should maybe even trade for Drew Doughty or do these things. I don't think so. The Leafs got to be going after 2 guys that are going to be top 4 D-men, that are true top 4 D-men, not Jake Gardiner worthy top 4. And I think Jake Gardiner has played his days out. He's in the final year of his contract. He's going to definitely go to the free agency market after next year. So I can't see him being a fit in Toronto. There's a 50-point defenseman that can potentially retrieve a good draft pick or retrieve some good talent coming the other way. Or if you want to look and go extreme, why not even throw a Gardiner in a sign and trade with JVR going over to the Kings for Drew Doughty? There's a lot of trades that need to happen in Toronto, but to be a realistic Leaf fan, we can't be thinking that, and that's what Leaf fans tend to do. They tend to be hit dreamland when off-season hits, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to flat out say simply and quickly here that Toronto needs to address getting 2 defensemen that are top 4 quality. If the stud's out there, number 1 guy for the right price, certainly go ahead and do it. But they need to just focus on tweaking that back end. And JVR and Bozak not being there is going to be 2 losses, but I'm certain that they can fill them via free agency. It'll be very simple, I feel, because there's some talent that is available. And, I'm just excited to see what the future is going to bring for Toronto. But that Game 7, Scott, was absolutely atrocious, and Jake Gardiner was awful. That whole decor was awful. Mitch Marner and Kapanen were the 2 guys that I got to give a thumbs up to this series against Boston. And Frederik Andersen, he was either there or he wasn't there. He wasn't there for all 7 games, but when he was on, he was lights out. But Kapanen and Marner, those guys were definitely the best players for the Maple Leafs. Boston going forward, though, against Tampa, I think they're going to beat Tampa. I've said that. Whoever wins that Boston-Toronto series, I said, will be the team to beat Tampa. I'm a strong believer in that. Boston is a very strong team, and they're very exciting to watch. And not as exciting as the Winnipeg Jets or Nashville Predators, in my opinion, but definitely exciting to see what the rest of the playoffs are going to bring. And Toronto has a lot of work to do going into the offseason in terms of tweaking, not major overall moves, but some management moves and some additions to D. And they'll come back next year, hopefully, to be a top seed coming out of the Atlantic next year's playoffs.
We'll have more on the NHL playoffs with Butch Davis coming up, and Dave will have more on the NHL playoffs Thursday night on his show from Boston Pizza. Dave, real quick, Raptors and Cavs begin their series tomorrow night in Toronto. The Raptors win 6 games over Washington. Cleveland needed a big game out of LeBron and all his antics, and I'll just leave it there for a 7-game series win over Indiana. Raptors, Cavs, we kind of thought this would happen. Your thoughts going into that series?
I was kind of hoping it was going to happen more in the conference finals. Obviously not in the second round, but, when LeBron wants to turn it on, he's going to turn it on. It's LeBron James. As much as I disagree with his antics too and how he is, and the guy is still, in my opinion, the best player in the NBA. He's the most electrifying, if you want to go with that extravagant term. He's
That's
the most entertaining.
Don't give it to him.
I won't give it to him then. It's simply put, LeBron is the best player playing, and when he wants to turn it on, he'll turn it on, and he'll be absolute destruction force out there. So I'm going to be honest and flat out say I'm confident that the Raptors will go on. I've said that I believed in a Raptors-Rockets final is what I saw, even not Golden State. I see the Rockets going on, but I feel that I am nervous. I'm not going to lie. I would have rather the Raptors play the Pacers or, heck, even the 76ers, whom are hot right now. I'd rather see play another team other than Cleveland, because Cleveland's been the curse of that Raptors team, as we know, for the past few years, to be the team that eliminated them. And the Raptors, though, I'm a strong believer, is that you have to slay the dragon. You have to beat the curse to win the title. Just like the Leafs would have to defeat the Bruins, I think, to win the cup and to move forward. So I think the Raptors have a much better chance than what they did in recent years against Cleveland. Cleveland's a more, I feel, depleted team in terms of locker room chemistry. I feel that the King is kind of selfish in there, and he brings down the morale of his players. And I feel like the Raptors coming out of a tough series against Washington. We knew that Washington wasn't going to be easy. So I'm glad the Raptors had 6 games to defeat them, because they're going to be primed and ready to go against Cleveland. And I feel that the Raptors are going to be a team that are going to surprise a lot in this series. A lot of people are predicting Cleveland to win, from what I've read. Even though the Raptors are the number 1 seed, everyone's still picking the King and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm a strong believer that the Raptors are going to come out and play hard, and this is the year that they're going to defeat the curse of LeBron and move on to the third round. And to do it, they have to play simple. I know it's hard to guard LeBron, it goes without saying, but it's keeping him to the outside, trying to take those longer shots in terms of those easier shots, which he can still drain. So it's sharing the ball. The Raptors have to share the ball a lot, and their bench has to be as good as it was all year and get a lot of points for the guys when the main guys are on the bench. So the Raptors just got to move the ball around and take some smart shots, and play smart ball to defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they have to try to keep LeBron contained, because you can't shut down LeBron. I'm a strong believer that it's someone that you can't shut down, much like a Crosby or McDavid or even I would say Matthews, but that's not true. Obviously they did shut him down. But you got Kevin Durant, you got these star-studded talents in the NBA. The best way is to try to contain them. And if they make those ludicrous shots in, then you can't go. You just got to try your best to try to contain LeBron. The Raptors, like I said, main thing is they got to share the ball and play smart basketball. And I'm excited that they get to start this series at home. I think that's a good advantage, and hopefully they can go to Cleveland up 2-0, and hopefully they can slay the dragon and the curse and move on to the third round.
Dave McCaig joining us on the game. Dave, we know you got to go, but before we let you go, give us your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week and preview your show or shows upcoming this week.
Absolutely. I got to give a thumbs up to J.A. Happ of the Toronto Blue Jays. I feel he has been a very good and refreshing piece to that Blue Jays rotation, as is a lot of them, except unless your name is Marcus Stroman, who has been struggling. But you know what? The Blue Jays, getting back to the winning ways against Texas, having a little bit of a skid there they got to try to keep up with those Yankees and Red Sox. And it was a good outing by J.A. Happ. Definitely had to give him a shutout there. And I got to give a thumbs up to the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. I know they played in third place essentially for the entire year in the Atlantic Division, but they battled down 3-1 again against Boston. And yes, there was another third period letdown, but it wasn't as severe as a 2013 one. But at the end of the day, the Leafs played hard, and these young kids are certainly something special to watch. And despite the absolute ludicrous performance on defense by people I've already mentioned in particular, but the Leafs had a great season. They provide a lot of entertainment, and they're providing a lot of excitement for the fans. And this is years ahead of the Shanna plan. They're already 2 years ahead, they say, of what Shanahan had planned. So very excited to see what the offseason and next year brings as it's getting more and more exciting each year. And thumbs down to two things. Definitely to Giovanni Smith of the Kitchener Rangers with that middle finger gesture. Not a fan of the middle finger gesture. I'm somebody who's competitive, and I can get out of mind sometimes, but you got to learn to control that, especially when you are a second-round draft pick of an AHL franchise. You got to keep knowledge in your head that you're watched at all times. And also, I got to give a thumbs down to, the Leafs being out of the playoffs. I'm going to go on the other side of the thing that they didn't make it past the Boston Bruins, but it's unfortunate that we can't watch any more Leaf hockey. But I know what hockey I am watching right now, and it's got me all sorts of white fever, and that's the Winnipeg Jets, who obviously lost last night. But going back to Winnipeg at the whiteout and the Great White North, they're calling it, I'm very excited to see what Winnipeg is going to do going down the stretch.
Me too, Dave. I'm all aboard the Winnipeg Jets bandwagon. Now, before we let you go, Dave, your shows this week. What you got coming up?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry. For this week, Wednesday, which we're going to have a Sports Center Bar and Grill, myself and Jamie Antonello will be there talking the NFL draft recap. So with an off-season in the pocket edition with NBA basketball. And we're going to have our round table discussion. Me and Jamie, we're hoping that Justin can make it as well, but scheduling conflicts on Wednesdays are always pretty tough for us, but we're obviously, myself and Jamie will be there for sure. Thursdays, obviously, this Thursday, we're going to be at Boston Pizza, myself, Justin, and Brad Cochamilio. We're going to be talking baseball, and we're going to be talking hockey, and we're hopefully going to have guests this week. Last couple weeks I've had a lot of rescheduling. I'm in the middle of attempting to lock up Brett Finley to come up to Boston Pizza for an interview, whom is a former teammate of mine and currently playing for the Abbotsford Heat in the AHL, so it'd be nice for sure to get him out. Brandon Brooks will be coming up in the next couple weeks, who just won another world championship out in England, and Brett Berlini hopefully can have them both on together, even live on location at Boston Pizza when they come back home. So definitely make sure the next 2 Thursdays are going to be very exciting, as also Greg Hartsburg will be coming on between this week or within the next 3 Thursdays as well. We're trying to lock up those days there. So this Thursday for sure, it looks like it's going to be Brett Finley that'll be coming on the show. So that'll be exciting to get him on, and make sure you lock in to look at the merchandise for the t-shirts. The t-shirts are going to be launched on the website this week for order, and the proceeds for the Game Sports Show t-shirts will go towards Northern Critters in Need and Big Brother Big Sister charities.
That's fantastic, Dave. The webpage, thegamesportshow.com, and you can hear Dave's shows along with this show on thegamesportshow.podbean.com. One thing real quick, I'm going to get to it in my thumbs up with Butch, Dave. The best part of the NFL draft, Ryan Shazier walking out to announce the Pittsburgh Steelers draft pick. I mean, that was absolutely incredible, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know how I didn't remember that to be one of my thumbs up and thumbs down. So I'll do a late addition to that. So Shazier coming out, that's great to see him walking, and definitely a tearjerker. That is, there's a guy who bleeds the black and yellow and who has put his heart and soul into the Steelers organization, and a very impressive talent, may I add, a part of that D with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And seeing that come out, that's just why you love sports. Not what happened to him, that's not why you love sports, but to see him be up walking, to be motivated to be a part of that organization, to come out and make that draft pick, definitely a tearjerker for sure, and definitely very excited to see Shazier walking.
And in second place, Goodell getting booed time and time again. Can't get enough of that. Boo that guy all you want. Dave McCaig joining us here on The Game. Dave, thanks for joining us. I know you got to go. Hopefully you'll be with us next Tuesday from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street. And enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be looking forward to your shows on thegamesportshow.podbean.com or thegamesportshow.com. Have a great rest of your week. Go Hounds. Hopefully we'll be talking about the OHL Finals next week with you.
Absolutely, and I'm currently going to go enjoy a nice meal at Giovanni's here in the Soo, a very, very high-class restaurant here in town with some of my buddies, with some friends that are in town. So then I'm going to definitely be back in time to try to watch the game, at least on Shaw, as I won't be able to attend. So definitely Go Hounds go. And you too, Scott. Hope you have a good rest of your week. And once again, congratulations to head coach John Ferroni for an impressive coaching career with the Soo High Blue Devils.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break here on the game. We come back. We'll be joined by Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports, who will get us up to date on what's going on. World of sports in Detroit and elsewhere. That's coming up on the game here on Eagle 95.1.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
Thank you for tuning in to the game. Heard Monday nights from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street on Eagle 95.1. Also online at radioeaglesoo.com and the podcast page, The Game Sports Show. .podbean.com. I hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Now, if you want to hear more of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national talk show, I encourage you to visit our website at thegamesportshow.com, and you can tune into a pair of broadcasts of the Game Sports Show from Soo, Ontario. Our co-host here on the game, Mr. Electric Avenue Dave McCaig, broadcasts the show on Wednesday night from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Soo, Ontario, along with his regular contributors, Jamie Antonello, Justin Heichel, and Dane Hantro. They focus on football with their In the Pocket segment, talking about the NFL, along with basketball and the NBA, and other sports, including tennis, golf, soccer, and the WWE. If you like hockey, Thursday nights are for you, as the Game Sports Show is broadcasting from Boston Pizza in Soo, Ontario, with Dave McCaig, along with his regular contributors, Justin Heichel and Dane Hantro. Now, this show focuses on hockey in the wintertime and baseball in the summer, and will include guests and interviews from local and national figures. Once again, you can hear 3 versions of the game at our website, thegamesportshow.com, or at the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Also on the podcast page, you will find selected audio broadcasts of Soo Eagles home games, Brimley Bay's basketball, and Soo High Blue Devil hockey, along with game contributor Butch Davis and his broadcasts of Butch on Sports. You can also find us on YouTube. Look for the Scott Nason channel. Thank you for listening, and keep it locked here to the game for all your local, regional, and national sports talk that you just can't get enough of.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and additional home to the Game Sports Show, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Sports Center Bar and Grill, located on 624 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sports Center rated top sports bar for the 2nd year in a row. At Sports Center, enjoy their famous 75-cent wing night along with delicious Molson products on tap, along with a great atmosphere and other great food options available as well. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Soo's best sports bar.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios on Ashman Street on this last day of April 2018. Want to thank Dave McCaig for joining us in the first segment, and now joining us, a weekly contributor and co-host of our show, The Game, and also host of the radio broadcast Butch on Sports, which you can find on the podcast page of this show, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Also, writer for the Telegram News, Butch Davis, joining us, who gets us up to date each and every week on the world of sports in the Metro Detroit area and around the country, even around the world. Butch, 2 weeks ago, it was snow. We had snow days. We had about a foot of snow on the ground, almost 70 degrees here in Sault Ste. Marie. First of all, how are you doing tonight? And secondly, what's the weather like down there?
The weather is beautiful here. We probably see people out here buck naked tomorrow because it's going to be 80 degrees. I don't know. What a sight to be seen here. Boy, oh boy. Oh, look at the crowd. They're going, yay, yay, yay.
Absolutely. Well, Butch, we got a lot to talk about here in our segment. Just you and I for the rest of the show. Let's start with the NFL draft and the Detroit Lions in particular, as the Lions had the 20th pick in this past week's draft, and they picked a center from Arkansas, Frank Ragnow, with the 20th pick, as GM Quinn and staff kind of want to build from the line up, it seems. The Lions did select a running back, Karen Johnson from Auburn, with their next pick. They also picked up a safety from Louisiana Lafayette, Trey Walker, defensive end from Alabama through a trade with New England, Sean Hand. They also received an outside tackle, Tyrell Crosby. I know you like this one, Butch, from Oregon. And a fullback from San Diego State, Nick Bodwin. I should say it's a little early to try. I don't like the grades and trying to do all this, and you really don't know. But in your opinion, Butch, what are your thoughts on the 2018 NFL draft for the Detroit Lions?
Well, I thought it was a very smart draft. And I'm going to use the word smart as we go through this scenario with the Detroit Lions. As you know, and you didn't know, the Detroit Lions were the worst run game in the NFL, okay? They were 24 with 47 sacks allowed with their quarterback. This is the guy who at one point in time was the highest paying player in the NFL here. You know, you just can't have that. Plus, you look at the scenario that Travis Swanson, he's already signed with the Jets. So he's gone, okay? Now you bring in someone 6'5", 312 pounds from Arkansas who's never allowed his quarterback to be sacked.
That's amazing.
That's a smart move here. And the guy, we saw him on the Saturday. No, I saw him Friday, matter of fact, there, late Friday afternoon there. And he was very original and real. He said, hey, guys, I'm Frank Ragnow, and I'm so excited. 3 souls in there. And he, he was just very nice. Patricia explained him in a nice little way here. He's obvious what we need, what we got to get going on there. And it's no secret. The running game it smells, okay? It smells to high heaven. Brings on Karen Johnson there from Auburn, 1,500 yards last year, okay? 17 touchdowns. You can't touch that with a doggone stick. But if you need someone, a rookie, to start the tradition of running between the tackles and whatnot, this is your guy that you need there. We do not have any running back in our system that runs between the tackles. That was a huge problem. Mr. Quinn said he was embarrassed. Because when we're down there in the red zone there and need a half a yard for a touchdown, we didn't even have a back to get it.
Right.
And he took it upon himself that was a huge priority, along with, you got Garrett Blount here, okay, that basically knows him, knows what he wants, knows what he needs. He's not messing around there. Tracy Walker, okay, Tracy Walker has friends in the furniture business for the Detroit Lions. Darius Slate is his cousin, okay? And, of course, I'm just going to let you know they're second cousins, okay? His mom is related to his dad. I saw that rumor right there.
Thank you.
Okay, we just fixed that on up. We're not out of the family business yet here at the Lions get the 4th round pick, Deshaun Hand. Okay, Deshaun Hand is very familiar with Bo Davis, who is the defensive line coach now with the Detroit Lions, and defensive tackle Ashawn Robinson was his teammate at one time there. So again, you got some connection with some people going into this particular season, and hopefully that influence will work. Tyrese Crosby, from Oregon, of course. You know I'm going to like him. He plays anyway, and really he doesn't care where he plays. He will play guard, he will play tackle. All he wants to do is play and beat people up. And that's what we don't have that on Detroit Lions, that aggressive lineman there who basically would do anything to protect the quarterback and the running back there. Nick Baldwin was a special surprise there. That's a work in progress. He was once upon a time a quarterback when he went to San Diego State. They changed him to a fullback. That's where he excelled. And so I guess the Lions see something in this man here that can, turn some tides. And basically the element of surprise is a very good thing in the NFL. So again, you got someone again from the beginning that you can teach the way of the way the Lions need to play. The Lions culture has now changed, okay? So again, we're looking for wins. We're looking for a Super Bowl appearance. I think people are beyond the playoff stage. I think people are beyond just winning only one playoff. They want to see a team excel. And right now, with the team they had last year versus the team or the people they're bringing in this year, there's going to be a lot of competition in the camp, which is not probably happening right now with the OTAs going on and whatnot here. I expect that we're going to see some people of name not be on that team or be cut.
Yeah, Butch, I really agree with pretty much everything you said there. I mean, I'm not one to grade drafts, excuse me. It's been a long Monday, I might add. But, I think it was a very smart draft. Quinn comes from a winning organization, and he clearly has a plan if you look at his last couple drafts. And you said it, trying to change the culture. And it really started, I think, with Martha Ford, kind of, kicking some butt around there and trying to change what was accepted as kind of a losing culture. Not kind of, it has been a very losing culture. And so I like this draft. I like where this team is heading. And we'll just have to see what happens here coming up over the next few months and into August preseason and next season. Butch, let's keep it going here talking about the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers did fall yesterday at Baltimore by the score of 5-3, and a couple injuries. Not quite sure the status of Miguel Cabrera. I know you're going to give us an update here as he left yesterday's game with a left bicep spasm. And in addition, starting pitcher Daniel Norris left the game with groin tightness, and it looks like he could be out for quite some time as the Tigers today placed him on the 10-day disabled list with a left groin strain, and he's expected to have surgery on it on Thursday. This is a team that can't afford to lose a starting pitcher. 11-15, the Tigers, second place, which is the good news, just 3 games behind Cleveland in a pretty mediocre Central Division. They're hosting Tampa tonight. Butch, give us a state of the Detroit Tigers heading into this week.
Well, let me give you some updates on those particulars that you just mentioned here, Scott. Daniel Norris is going to be out for 60 days. He's on the 60-day disabled list. They're going to take some procedures with the groin that he has there and make it right. He has not looked good since the season has started. He's kept it quiet. Like a trooper, yes, you can run around like Rudy all you want and say, I can do it, coach. But when you can't do it and the coach called you out, there's some problems there around. Yes, it was a 10-day disabled list. It's been now changed to 60 days. Okay, Miguel Cabrera, I would not be surprised if the team don't put him on the 10-day disabled list. Right now, he is not on the disabled list. Hicks will start in this place tonight in the starting lineup for the Detroit Tigers at first base there. Hicks, as you know, is a rookie. He's showing that if he gets some time on the field, he can do some things with the bat. We're going to see how good Hicks is right now there. So that's an opportunity for John Hicks to make a name for himself with the Detroit Tigers. But right now, Detroit, as far as the effort is concerned, pretty doggone good. As far as the bullpen is concerned, it stinks to high heaven. You can call it anything you want. You can say they're worn out, wearing out, taking the stretch to the side, to the back, to the front. But again, their bullpen stinks. It's caused a lot of hardship with some wins that the team should have gotten for the hustle they have received there. I don't blame them at all right now for the start they have. It's a little bit more remarkable than I would think. But again, as you watch the games there, you can tell that these young players are still getting accustomed to one another, and communication is going to be a huge key for these kids as they go forward in winning some games and being able to be a team.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's move on to the National Hockey League NHL playoffs in full force here in the second round. But talking about the Detroit Red Wings, they found out where they will pick in this June's NHL draft, as they will pick 6th overall. They lost out on franchise defenseman from Sweden that could have been a total game changer. It looks like Carolina, Montreal will have a chance at them, but more than likely Buffalo, who gets the number 1 pick, will take Mr. Sweden there, Rasmus Dahlin. I couldn't think of his name there. But the Wings will get a 6th pick in the NHL draft. Lots of good players will be available. Butch, probably help on the blue line, but who knows? State of the Wings heading into the NHL draft, my friend.
Oh, boy. That's kind of a wicked situation here, man, because the Wings need so much right now as a balance. And they need to get a draft choice that basically is going to come and be a force right now, okay? And with the 6th draft pick there, that's an iffy pick there. You can say maybe 1 or 2 is a very good possibility that can happen. But when you get the 6th draft, how much season is that particular player going to have in order to make the grade for Detroit Red Wings, which is not too high, as I would say there. I would bring my dog Tippy down there to work out with the Red Wings, and probably would do a lot better than some of the players that we saw all the last year here. However, again, I think Ken Holland has the right ideal. I think the Wings are not that far off. I think basically right now we're going to have to come to terms with some older players and the roles they're going to play versus the younger players playing a bigger role and taking responsibility for their actions on the ice and doing the right thing by playing a harder game. They have not played a harder game. They have not played in a physical game. They are not skating as fast as other people would say. I can remember when Larkins was the talk of the town because of the speed he has. And the last 2 years, I haven't seen that out of Larkins to take advantage of many players on the ice and turn that into some instant offense or maybe some doggone confounding defense, I would say there. Leadership is a big key right now. I think this season they need to find a leader, besides Zetterberg, okay, to get these kids and get the team more in tune in what they need to do in order to be a winning team there and a playoff team at best.
Butch, let's move on to the Detroit Pistons, and, really no news as far as what we talked about last week and what happened this past week, as there's supposedly going to be a meeting with Stan Van Gundy and Tom Gores as far as the future of head coach and GM Stan Van Gundy, but as of right now, as far as what I've heard, no news, and that could be good news for Stan Van Gundy, as we've seen several NBA teams replace their coach of the New York Knicks, the Orlando Magic, the Hornets, among others. Any news or anything to report on who the head coach will be next year? It seems like it's going to be Stan Van Gundy, Butch.
Well, I think Tom Gores, number one, is at the chopping block of basically finding out what he actually really do need in order to have this club be efficient there. And I've said it, and I'll continue to say it there. I think Stan Van Gundy will be a pretty good deal when it comes down to vice president and getting the talent for the team. I don't think that he is a very good coach. And with that, he has to come to terms on that, along with the owner in Dow, and find a decent coach that can motivate these players to do a better job and also come in camp being healthy. That is a huge key for the Pistons there, as they have so many players that they're dependent on not give their all or not be missing in action, I would say, because of injury and whatnot there. You can't have a la-di-da attitude when you're a professional player and because someone is giving you some money. I think that's one of the mistakes that Stan Van Gundy has made as an executive there. He's passed out money that is not deserving to the particular players in Dow, okay? You can't pay Anthony Tolliver an arm and a leg. You can't play John Lewis, who's giving you absolutely nothing, an arm and a leg, and then you're in this cap situation where you can't do anything else. We have given away good players. We have seen every excuse be made on why this team has not excelled, I should say there. So we need to find out right now, and I believe they're meeting right now as we speak, okay? I believe it's going to be a series of days that they talk and really get this hammered down on what they really need. You better believe that Tom Gores has something in his back pocket in case this doesn't go the way it should go. And that means some admittance to the fact that either I can do this job or that job, but I can't do both jobs.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, anything you want to add as far as regional sports from your perspective before you and I head into our roundtable discussion?
Who knows? I thought it was wrong for the WWE to put it on at 12 o'clock in that little...
yeah.
I'll talk about that for a few minutes then. If I end up seeing it around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, per se, the 50-man battle royal and all the other good stuff there. And the one thing that shocked me and surprised me is when you saw in front of the audience there, you didn't see any women.
No.
Okay, you saw no women. Oh, you saw plenty of men in that joint here, okay?
Exactly.
And the women wrestlers, you didn't see them either, okay? You saw nothing but men wrestlers there. Either the money was grand that Vince McMahon received from the Saudi Arabia government or something, or I don't know. But, you know, it was an all right event per se there, but again, they didn't get the full treat of what the WWE is all about there, especially with the women who they're really trying to pump up religiously stupendous there. And that was kind of wicked, but other than this week is concerned and dealing with the wonderful weather, I'll be down in the stadium Wednesday. This Friday, per se, here, we'll find out the terms of the rookie camp that's going to be going on with the Lions.
Yeah, talking about, but let's just lead off with that to the roundtable as far as, we'll talk about the WWE, and I'll make that my first topic. I didn't have a chance to watch the pay-per-view, if you will, in Saudi Arabia, the first ever. I know there was a very big payout that was happening with that pay-per-view, and you know, to me, the matches themselves, the individual matches, without the women, and I think over the past few years, the men have kind of flatlined, if not maybe even downgraded a bit, but women's wrestling compared to where it was 5 years ago has skyrocketed up, and it's a shame that a country like that couldn't see or witness what's happening with women's wrestling. And it's not the divas of the early 2000s where you had the Tori Wilsons and the Stacy Keeblers. And don't get me wrong, that was enjoyable in its own right. But these are wrestlers. These are performers. And these are athletes. I mean, you look at what's going on in the women's division right now with Charlotte Flair, Asuka. You have a little bit of a surprise in Alexa Bliss as far as somebody that maybe wasn't expected to do as well as she's done in the ring and especially on the mics. Sasha Banks, Bayley, not to be forgotten, Becky Lynch. I mean, you still have Naomi. I mean, you have a very deep roster of talent as far as the women. You have some new ones that are coming up that you've seen. Ember Moon, for example, coming up from NXT, and the new tag team in SmackDown. And so it's a shame that that audience didn't get a chance to see what's going on with women's wrestling. But I got to say, Butch, my favorite thing that happened in the 50-man Royal Rumble, which was won by Braun Strowman. First of all, the return of Hornswoggle. I guess I didn't see that one coming. And, no. Butch, I'm pretty sure you saw this. The entrance of Titus O'Neil, or I should say the lack of entrance of Titus O'Neil. He tripped over a cord and slid under the ring. Did you happen to see that one?
Yeah, slid right under the dog on that here, man. And it showed it, like 10 times. It really messed him. He'll remember that for the rest of his life. He's made with that bad boy there. I have never laughed so hard in all my living doggone life when it comes down to wrestler's entrance there.
Titus worldwide, baby.
Yeah, sure. Worldwide?
stuff. Well, let's continue our roundtable discussion. We got about 20 minutes before we have to go. Is there any other topics you wanted to bring up tonight?
Oh God, no, we can talk. Let's talk about the draft here. And we have many fans that have their opinions on what teams need and what they really need there. I watched the draft in somewhat its entirety the first 2 days. Didn't give a good swat about it the third day there, but the first 2 days, looked at it very carefully and see like now the NFL has changed their tune when it comes down to picking players in doubt that they want to get players who are smart, they're intelligent. The players that you expect to go very, very high did not go very high. And also the changes that maybe some of these teams want some of these players to make. Their original draft choice where position was their key might want them to do something else. And I saw a lot of that going on here. What did you get out of it?
Yeah, I did as well, Butch, and we've talked about it in past editions of the game as far as some of the other sports and how they do their drafts and their rules. I just think that the NFL does a lot of things right, including this draft. And I really like, more from a viewing perspective, and the fact that they're moving it around to different cities. Now, I didn't think it worked as well this year with the big stadium there in Arlington. I think they need to maybe make it a little smaller venue. I think that was too big of a venue for the draft. Of course, Jerry Jones does everything big in Texas, but I do like the fact that they're moving it around out of New York. It just adds a lot. Of course, you have the commissioner coming up, and he's getting booed left and right every pick, and that's entertaining. But, looking at the draft itself, and again, I'm not one that's going to grade it. The grades will come out eventually. They always do, and I like what you said about the Detroit Lions making a very smart draft. We didn't have a chance to have E.J. Russell on tonight. I would love to hear his thoughts on what he feels about the Cleveland Browns draft. Heading into the draft, many people thought that they would take maybe a Josh Allen, a Josh Rosen, but they took Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma, a walk-on player, number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And then really surprised me. I thought for sure they would take Bradley Chubb, the big defensive end out of NC State, but they took a more local product in Denzel Ward, cornerback out of Ohio State. I really thought the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley, has potential to be a very good NFL player. He goes number 2, and Jets get Sam Darnold. Obviously, you knew they would get a quarterback, and he will probably get his first start at Ford Field on Monday Night Football as the Lions will take on the Jets the first week. Looking at some of the picks in that first round, Butch, Josh Allen goes to Buffalo. They trade up to get him, the quarterback out of Wyoming. The other quarterback, Josh Rosen, falls to number 10. He didn't like that too much on draft night, but I think he's getting himself into a very good situation. One of my favorite players in the draft, Daron Payne, the big defensive lineman from Alabama, goes to Washington. And, you can go down the line and talk about a lot of these guys and where they go. But I agree with you. I think the NFL does things right. And I'm going to kind of steal my thumbs up here. To me, one of the biggest moments of the entire there were two that really stood out to me, and the name of the gentleman escapes me, but Seattle in the 5th round picked that linebacker out of Central Florida there, whose brother plays there at the one hand. I mean, what a story that is right there. And another big story, Butch, and you saw it. I talked to Dave about it earlier. Ryan Shazier, a guy that just a hard-nosed player from Ohio State, got injured this year in a horrific injury, which many people thought he might not even walk again. Well, guess what? He did walk again. He walked up on the stage and announced the Pittsburgh Steelers draft pick. And, we talk about that in sports, and, I always talk about putting things in perspective. We have the Soo Greyhounds taking on Kitchener tonight in Game 7, and there's so much pressure on the Greyhounds and such. But, you just think of a few weeks back and the tragedy which hit another junior hockey team in Humboldt. And, that example and the Ryan Shazier example just says that, sports is important. And we talk about sports a lot, Butch, on here, and we love sports, and we're always going to. But it's human life and human beings and stories like that, to me, that are more important than anything.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, Scott, there. And there's no other medium in this world that brings people more together than sports.
Absolutely.
I will say that continually. And, people may not like it. I know religious people don't like it. I know this set of people don't like it, but it's just too bad. You can get everyone from all walks of life out there to have a smile on their face and a melody in their heart when it comes down to a sporting event here. I did enjoy the NFL tremendously in how they drafted. I saw more small schools get a lot more attention this year than ever before there. A school like the University of Central Florida, who did not get the pomp and circumstance that many of us felt that they deserved when it comes down to playing in a playoff game, had some diamonds in the rough when it comes down to the NFL paying their respects and drafting a lot of those kids out of there. And even though the kids that did not get drafted, I looked at the page on Monday morning, and where majority of the kids who did not get drafted were free agents, and any team can pick them if they decide they want to go. A lot of those players leave and have a place to come in when it comes down to a rookie camp. So I saw a lot going on. What really interested me in this whole particular draft is that everyone just couldn't call it the way they did. We knew quarterbacks would go at a premium, and again, that's a wait-and-see process on why a team does what they does, because there were many more efficient people that can help a team right away rather than get a quarterback, or maybe the quarterback they have now be given the opportunity with the right pieces in place to do what they need to do. Cleveland's one of them teams that basically right now, I think they overdo it when it comes down to using the draft as a key to get their team going. They lack leadership big time there. And they also, although I do think they have the coach that will get them going, they also lack proper placement when it comes down to getting to the right people in there. Not only in this draft, but drafts in the pack. It's not necessarily that the one that gets all the fanfare on the media is the person that you got to pick. And so far, so good with Cleveland. That hasn't been the case where that particular person has been an influence in making that team better.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, I'm going to throw out a couple different subjects here for my portion of the round table. The NHL playoffs in the second round. You have 3 series tied at 1. Big double overtime win by Nashville over Winnipeg in the West. That series tied at 1. Game 3 tonight between San Jose and Vegas. That series tied at 1 after a double overtime game in Vegas, won by San Jose. Washington ties up the series at 1 against Pittsburgh tonight. Tampa and Boston. Boston up 1-0 in that series. And then the NBA transitioning to the second round. The East will start tonight. Boston will host Philadelphia. Cleveland, after their 7-game win yesterday afternoon against Indiana, will be at Toronto tomorrow night. And the West has started. Golden State and Houston, both winners in Game 1. I just want your overall thoughts on the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs. Are you watching, and what has gotten your attention?
Well, I've been watching there, but one of the teams, let's start with the basketball first, that I think will have many people's interest right now will be the Toronto and the Cleveland series there. In case you haven't known, Toronto is the best team in the East. Cleveland just making out a 7-game series with Indiana, who should have won that game, by the way, if it wasn't for some of the antics of LeBron James.
And that's exactly right.
And some less defense playing or somebody being scared on the Indiana side. I don't know what to call it or whatever it may be there, but they played their heart out. I can't get no more than that. Cleveland deserved to win because of that particular one player we talked about, LeBron James, just refused to lose there, playing practically the whole game for them there in order for them to get where they need to go. Now, that will be the series that I look at, and 2 reasons, because I think Toronto is the better team than Cleveland. However, Cleveland with this spike attitude to saying that, I got some things that I need to prove. I've been in the finals for the last 7 to 8 years. I don't want it to fail, and I just think this is going to be a huge test for Toronto to prove that they are the team of the East or the team of the future, that they can play some doggone good ball. Right now, the figures say that Toronto will win that because they do have the bench better than Cleveland. And if they mold this on out to maybe 5 or 6 games, Toronto should be the victor in there because they should have a fresher team. However, a hungry team is a hungry team, and Cleveland looked the part. Now, going over to hockey there, the Las Vegas, Winnipeg, no.
San Jose.
The San Jose thing here, that was kind of wicked here. I think we're going to see a 7-game series in that particular one. The Winnipeg series there, hopefully Nashville got their wings going because Winnipeg is not messing around here. And don't be surprised that we may not see a surprise in that particular series where Winnipeg go forward there. I know myself, I think the Nashville Predators are the better team. But again, the way Winnipeg is looking right now, what I've seen, no surprise there if they don't win the series there. Very interesting bodies of work that I saw with Houston. They just took over last night, and then when they played there, I would like to see them Monday night when they do it again and see that the Jazz is not a better team there. I think you do have a better team, but Ricky Rubio did not play. That might be a factor down the road a piece there. But again, I think it's going to be a better series than advertised right now than we saw Sunday there. But all the games right now are very competitive games. I have no complaint over it. I've seen less mistakes by the officials this week than I had last week. So that's a good thing in general because they're allowing the players to decide what goes on the ice as well as on the court.
Yeah, they must have heard our show last week, Butch.
Yeah, we really burned them down here.
Yeah, I'll talk about the NHL. I've watched a lot of both, and the series to me, the Western series to me, have a lot more of my attention than the East. And there are some good Eastern series. I mean, Boston, Tampa. Tampa was my pick to make the Stanley Cup, and well, they're in a pretty tough situation now. I mean, it's early in the series, but you want to win that game 2 at home after losing the first game. And Boston is tough. Chris Marchand, boy, he is a tough player. 16-1 when he scores as a Bruin in the playoffs. Pittsburgh, Washington, we've kind of seen this one play out. I think Washington maybe could nip Pittsburgh this year. They need to get a little better goaltending out of Matt Murray, and their power play is going to have to get going in that series. But boy, the Western Series, Vegas and San Jose, the double overtime game in Vegas, you kind of figured that Fleury was going to have a human effort, if you will, and have a game that maybe wasn't his best after just allowing 3 goals in the first 5 games and 3 shutouts. I agree, Butch. I think that one could go the full 7, and I think Winnipeg-Nashville could go the full 6 or 7. I really think a lot of these series are going to go 6 or 7. I don't see how a team's going to win in 4 or 5 games right now. Well, we know that none of the 3 series that are 1-1 will obviously go to 5 games, but Nashville and Winnipeg, the 2 teams with the most points in the regular season, meeting in the second round, and it is going to be wild in Winnipeg tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to that one. NBA has been a little better than expected as far as some of the first rounds, which can kind of be tame. You had 2 series go 7 games. A couple others went 6, and I agree with you, Butch. Toronto and Cleveland is the series I'm watching, as well as Boston, Philadelphia. I think that one potentially could be a very interesting series. Boston needing 7 games to dispense of Milwaukee, but I'm watching Toronto and Cleveland. LeBron James, 45 points, and his antics. That's kind of been the word that you, myself, and Dave has all used, as LeBron James can be a little dramatic out there, and I'll just leave it there. But boy, he can also perform when he needs to. But I really think, and we've talked a lot about the Raptors this year, Butch, I think the Raptors are there. I mean, I think they got through that, well, not I think, but they got through that first series against Washington. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. The pressure really, I think, is on the Raptors. I mean, they're had the best record in the East, and I'm looking forward to that series, and it's going to be a lot of fun, no question about that. Butch, let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. I'll let you go first.
Oh, boy, thumbs up. Woo! Say the thumbs up goes for. Let's get the NFL draft and the Detroit Lions some play this week. A thumbs up for Bob Quinn having some guts there to get some players that are needed on this team to put pressure on some of the veterans who've been here for quite some time and got absolutely nothing done. I think this is going to be a very competitive summer of excitement and rear end kicking to find out what team they're going to field for the Detroit Lions and make the general public pleased, happy, and give them some bragging rights that there is very well needed in the city and also the state of Michigan for a team that many have supported for years and years and years and got absolutely nothing from them. And thumbs down to Hazel Park Raceway and and that particular screw up there. I know gambling is a huge thing. I know the state of Michigan has their lottery, and for some reason, people think that's competitive when people go to the horse track to look at the horses or look at the fun of going to the track, having a great meal, or maybe doing some horse betting or whatever it may be. It's sad that the state of Michigan has not embraced a lot of things that is traditional. I use the word traditional in there. And this started off with the state fair being moved from Detroit, okay? When this in place so many years in one spot and everybody knows his name. And you mess it up. And what hurts me is not so much the owners who sold it, but the people who work around it who don't have jobs anymore or have no way to kind of support themselves or may have to start all over again. We're talking about people who may be in their late 60s, early 70s who've been there since they were teenagers, enjoying to work. And now you put them in dire straits of their families not knowing what's going to be done. So the Hazel Park situation could have been dealt with a lot better. They already announced that they have sold it, and they're going to build apartments on the complex there. But again, no horse racing, no alternative place to go when it comes down to feeling their expertise or their place of being.
I agree with you 100% there, Butch. 3 thumbs up for me, Butch. I want to give thumbs up. We mentioned Ryan Shazier earlier, linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers who got injured. He walked out on stage and announced the Pittsburgh Steelers draft pick, a guy that maybe wasn't expected even to walk again, and best of luck to him. And his attitude is absolutely top of the charts as far as after he got this injury. Didn't make any excuses. It wasn't any blame or anything. He's got himself up, picked himself up, and great job there by Mr. Shazier. Also a thumbs up to local product Joe Osman. He didn't get drafted in the NFL draft, the linebacker from Central Michigan who played his high school football at St. Ignace, but he got an invite to the Philadelphia Eagles free agent camp coming up, so hopefully Mr. Osman can get on the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a bad situation to find himself. And a thumbs up to Michigan football. Now, hang on here. I know this isn't a sarcastic comment or anything like that of Paul Van Wagner, who I know is listening from ESPN Blacksburg, but they're doing their overseas trip this year in France, and they were recently, I believe either earlier today or yesterday, in Normandy. And anybody that follows history knows the history of Normandy and World War II, and just the eye-opening experience that the players and the coaching staff had while visiting there. Yours truly, when he was in the Navy, was participating in a parade with many veterans from England and France that were part of that Normandy invasion, and it was just absolutely unbelievable to hear some of the stories that they had and the respect that the French and the British had for Americans. And it really, again, it seems like the theme of this segment is putting things in perspective, but good for these young men to just get an eye-opening experience on one of the darkest periods in our time, World War II. And we've had too many dark periods in our time throughout our history, but thumbs up for Michigan for doing this overseas trip and really keeping it real for lack of a better term. And thumbs down to Giovanni Smith, defenseman for the Kitchener Rangers, second-round pick for the Detroit Red Wings, who should be playing as we speak right now in Game 7 between the Kitchener Rangers and the Soo Greyhounds. But after the win yesterday, he flipped the bird to the Soo Greyhounds bench, getting himself a 2-game suspension. So, hey, he's a young man. He made a bad mistake. Still got to give him a thumbs down, as Kitchener definitely could use him in the lineup tonight, as they are currently taking on the Soo Greyhounds. No score in the first period. Butch, we'll have broadcasts of your show on our podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. 3 episodes last week. What do you have in store this week, sir?
Oh, a whole heck of a lot. Let me piggyback on Giovanni Smith. He should be with the Red Wings camp in Traverse City this year. I'm quite sure there, but hopefully they give him a pass and get him out of there and put him either in Grand Rapids or let him come on down here. I think he's an excellent hockey player, and he's a leader there, and that's why they got him. It's because of his leadership and some of the antics he just did for that 2-game suspension. He will go to bat for his team there. And when something's not right, he knows how to express himself. Maybe not in the attic that he should be here, but
use the wrong finger, Butch.
Yeah, wrong finger there, you know. And by the way, as we mentioned, free agents in football there, John O'Korn, Mr. O'Korn from Michigan, has been picked up by the Detroit Lions to come to their rookie camp there. As far as me, Wednesday, Comerica Park. This weekend, who knows there, because the Detroit Tigers ain't going to be in town too much. But again, we're going to pick up on the Tigers, as we know the Lions are going to be getting ready for rookie camp, and we'll try to stay up on top of that.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Now, Butch, due to my umpiring schedule, believe it or not, we're actually getting on the field this week. We're going to have our show for the month of May on Tuesday nights from the Wicked Sisters, starting next Tuesday, May 8th. We'll have our next 4 shows on Tuesday night. Then we'll be back to Monday nights in June. So you going to join us next Tuesday from the Wicked Sisters, sir?
Why not?
Absolutely. Butch, hey, thanks for joining us. We'll have your show on our podcast page, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday, sir.
All right. Be looking for you.
And that's going to do it here from Sault Ste. Marie. We will talk to you next Tuesday for another edition of The Game here on Eagle 95.1.
Thanks for tuning into The Game on Eagle 95.1. Tune in every Monday night at 6 for local sports talk on The Game from the Wicked Sister on Ashman in downtown Sault Ste. Marie. You can hear the full 2-hour broadcast of The Game, including regional and national sports talk and guests, on the podcast page snason.podomatic.com.
Or you can find the link on our Eagle 95.1 Facebook page.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled program.
Eagle 95.1 WUPN Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.